If you thought Pete Hegseth couldn't dig his political grave any deeper, somehow you would be wrong, because our Secretary of Defense, and I just can't believe he's still our Secretary of Defense. He should have already resigned by now, but held a press conference late yesterday in which not only did he implode, not only did he lose it, but he needed his lackeys to scream at a reporter asking him the questions we all deserve the answers to. Was Pete Hegseth sharing classified information in a compromised Signal group chat? Was he drinking on the job? It was an absolute disaster. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into Pete Hegseth, I want to hear, unfortunately, what Donald Trump has to think about all this. And make sure to stick around, because later in this video, we're also talking to Congressman Eric Swalwell.
What it was, we believe, is somebody that was on the line with permission, somebody that was with Mike Waltz, worked for Mike Waltz at a lower level, had, I guess, Goldberg's number or called through the app, and somehow this guy ended up on the call. Now, it wasn't classified, as I understand it. There was no classified information. There was no problem, and the attack was a tremendous success. So I can only go by what I've been told. I wasn't involved in it, but I was told by, and the other people weren't involved at all. But I feel very comfortable, actually.
You were on. What a shocker. Is anyone really surprised by the fact that Donald Trump is not taking accountability? Well, I had nothing to do with it, and neither did the people who had anything to do with it, and neither did the people who didn't have anything to do with it, who had something to do with it. The buck doesn't stop anywhere in this Trump administration. I think it's pawned off on Joe Biden somehow. Donald Trump hasn't found a way to blame him or Hillary Clinton or Kamala Harris yet, but we're only a couple of days into this scandal, so give him some time, because if there's anything he loves more than not taking accountability, it's passing it off on someone who didn't have anything to do with Donald Trump's screw up. But that's what this administration is. Screw up after screw up, covered up with lie after lie, and more hypocrisy than we would ever even expect. And in the midst of all of this, Pete Hegseth exposing himself as the most unqualified Secretary of Defense we've ever had, he said the most hypocritical thing ever out of his mouth in this clip right here.
Those programs. My assessment is the DOD will be merit-based and colorblind. You will be judged based on how good you are at your job. Full stop. That's it. And so getting rid of diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, getting rid of different standards was fundamental to getting back to basics. And that's what when I get a chance to talk to commanders here, that's what I emphasize. We're getting back to basics. Standards at every level need to be adhered to, and that's at a baseline. And when you talk to soldiers, you talk to Marines, they get it. They get it. They've seen the standards slide under the previous administration.
Merit-based and colorblind. Merit-based? Really, Pete? Then you should resign. You have more quickly than any other person in American history, any other cabinet official, demonstrated that you are unqualified for this job, that you are a danger not only to the men and women who serve you, but every single American. So if you really believe in merit, or bringing back the meritocracy, then maybe make a little sacrifice to it and get rid of yourself, because you cannot do this job. You can't even answer questions about how you can't do this job. Just take a look right here.
Mr. Secretary, the messages the White House called authentic did at the very least include sensitive details about targets and timing. Did you declassify that information before you put it in the chat? And are you using Signal to discuss operations as sensitive as the strikes against the Houthis on a government or a personal phone?
First, all I would say is the strikes against the Houthis that night were devastatingly effective. And I'm incredibly proud of the courage and skill of the troops. And they are ongoing and continue to be devastatingly effective. The last place I would want to be right now is a Houthi in Yemen who wants to disrupt freedom of navigation. So the skill and courage of our troops is on full display. It's a complete opposite approach from the fecklessness of the Biden administration. President Trump said peace through strength will be brought back. Freedom of navigation will return, and that's exactly what we're doing. As I also stated yesterday, nobody's texting war plans, and that's all I have to say.
Like I said at the beginning of this video, The non-answers are even more damning than the lies. And boy, were there a lot of lies coming out of Pete Hegseth. Really, the worst of them all was this one right here that came as a question from a reporter, was being screamed down by Pete Hegseth's goons. Just take a look.
As I also stated yesterday, nobody's texting war plans. And that's all I have to say about that.
So those same troops that you are proud of, do you regret putting information like the ones you did in the Signal chat that could endanger those same American service members?
Nobody's texting war plans. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what we're directing, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished. A success.
You got to be kidding me! I don't even have the words. I really don't. And if I did have them, I would not send them in a compromised Signal group chat with the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic in it. These people are dumb. They do not know what they are doing. They have no place running our government, and they are in the most important positions in our country, and they just don't seem to care. But Democrats do, immediately jumping at the opportunity to expose just how unqualified and corrupt and criminally crazy this administration is. And of course, Eric Swalwell was one of the Democrats doing that, someone we talked to just yesterday, and I want to take a look at that full interview.
Congressman, the narrative that Donald Trump pushed in his campaign, obviously it wasn't true, it's Donald Trump, was that his first term had some chaos, some mean tweets, as Republican called them, but the economy was good, so it was fine. Now
until it wasn't, right?
Yeah, until it wasn't, until he crashed it.
Yeah.
And now he's crashing it again. He's sped up that process, and we see disasters all over the place. Now, Republicans don't think that's true. Pete Hegseth is a great example of that. So I want to hear what Pete Hegseth thinks, and then get your response from a person who actually knows what they're talking about.
Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it. And Mr. President, thank you for having the courage to do it and leading the way for all our warfighters.
Thank you.
First off, the president wouldn't know the difference between an F-150 and whatever the F-47 is, of our fighter jets. I think it's more like an F-5, like a fucking tornado that is just wiping out, everyone who is in its way, and people's healthcare security is at risk. Their savings are starting to dip. Their 401ks, if their retirement is invested in the stock market at all, it's in a free fall, and people are like, "Hey man, we were just promised cheaper eggs, and why don't you focus on that?"
Yeah, it's administration focused on naming and invading for some reason. That's what they care about. I don't know if you can go to the grocery store and present the Gulf of America as a coupon for cheaper eggs. It doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
But let me tell you something about the grocery stores. I've been talking to our Canadian friends, and you know what they tell me is, the tariff thing, trade negotiations, countries do that. But this shit about being a 51st state, we may never forgive you for that. And right now in Canadian grocery stores, they are making an American-made section in the grocery store on purpose. So the grocers are putting all the American goods in one place so you know where not to go. And then it's almost like a public shaming if you go over there and buy it. And guess who that fucks over? Farmers in the United States who, and by the way, in Byron Donald's district, for example, he's all in on MAGA. His farmers are making a lot of produce that is going to Canada, and the Canadians, they're not going to buy it anymore. So we're hurting our own people with this nonsense.
And they're doing it through the USAID cuts as well. They talk about how much they love farmers, how much they want to support American manufacturing. Well, we saw the mass exodus of American manufacturing under Donald Trump in his first term. We're probably going to see it happen again. This is just the most incompetent. I've just been straight up saying it. These are dumb people. They are dumb. And it's not just Pete Hegseth, it's not just Tulsi Gabbard, it's not just RFK Jr. Of course, it all starts at the top. And it's not just that Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He may be losing his mind completely, and I think that's pretty clear in this clip right here.
Mr. President, your reaction to the story in The Atlantic that said that some of your top the cabinet
That's where the Gulf of America is, the Atlantic.
Very sensitive material through Signal and included an Atlantic reporter for that. What is your response to that?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic.
He doesn't
To
know.
me, it's a magazine
He
that's
doesn't
going
know.
out of business. I think it's.
But he doesn't
not
like
much
the
of a
Atlantic. He does
magazine,
know
but
that.
I know nothing
Yeah,
about
again,
it. You're
he
saying that
probably
they had
doesn't know.
what?
They were using
The
Signal.
difference between the Atlantic Ocean and
the
you know,
Atlantic-
the Atlantic
Atlantic magazine.
publication. Well, okay, well, if this is the case, then who is signing all of these orders, and who's giving the commands for us to do what our military is doing? I mean, this guy spent the last 4 years calling Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, and this looks like Donnie Dementia up there, who has no idea what the people who are working for him are doing.
I think that it is insane that we have had Donald Trump on several occasions just this week say, oh, the Alien Enemies Act, I didn't sign that. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, top secret war materials that are being shared with journalists, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's not in charge. It seems like no one is in this administration. The mainstream media doesn't want to cover it. How do Democrats have to approach that to make sure people see Donald Trump is falling apart and he's bringing us all down with him?
Well, don't bury the lead. The lead is Pete Hegseth should resign.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and frankly, every person on that chat should resign and never in their lifetime have access to classified material, because these morons expose our military with their idiocy of just putting it into a group chat, and not one of them said, hey, who is this other person in here that's not responding, right? Like, it wasn't like he was pretending to be someone else. He just wasn't responding. But it also raises this question of, Donald Trump wants to fire everyone at the FBI and CIA and replace it with this, this insanity. So, no, it does not inspire confidence, but it also makes you wonder, like who's the president? I think what we're seeing as people are feeling the pain, and we're going to be less secure as a country, is that Elon Musk is the muscle, and Donald Trump is the mouthpiece. And he's actually not even that great of a mouthpiece these days.
Awful, I can't even call it like a dynamic duo. It's just a disastrous duo. It's like, so there's the mouthpiece, there's a muscle, there's clearly no brains. This is not a smart group of people. They want to break the government so that they can say, it doesn't work, let's get rid of it, as they write another big tax cut. They want
what you're seeing play out is they believe in a free-for-all economy. And I think as Democrats, we have to fight for a free market economy where no matter who you are, where you come from, if you have a good idea and you work hard, you can succeed. And right now, it's just the Broliarchy, the billionaire row at the inauguration. They're the ones that are going to do all right. Everyone else.
Wait, what? Pete Hegseth is still the Secretary of Defense? This moron publicly texts out our war plans, putting our soldiers at risk, and he's not gone after he said over and over and over, so many other officials and other administrations should lose their security clearances and lose their jobs for stuff that is not even on the level of what he did here. And these guys, they want to fire everyone at the FBI and CIA and replace it with this? No. Hegseth has got to go. Everyone on that group chat, by the way, they just fire off texts not knowing who's on the group chat. They all should be fired if they don't resign, and they should all lose their security clearances. Bottom line. And calling for anything less just makes us miss the moment. We can't miss the moment. These guys gotta go.
Such a great opportunity to talk to Congressman Eric Swalwell. We are going to bring more Democrats on the show every day, every week. We are the independent media. The mainstream media is not giving us the coverage that we need. They are failing to do their job as journalists, so we're picking up the slack. And if you want to support that on this show, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.